president of Venezuela's National Electoral Council announced the deployment of the 2021 Republic Plan, representing the security guarantees for the regional and municipal elections to be held this coming Sunday, November 21st. United States care workers marched in front of the Capitol in Washington on Tuesday to urge Congress members to pass the Build Back Better bill, a social welfare spending package worth up to $1.85 trillion. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers issued a 2-week strike notice, leading to panic buying of fuel. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is from the South. I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Venezuela, where the president of the National Electoral Council, Pedro Calzadilla, announced the deployment of the 2021 Republic Plan to guarantee the security of the regional and municipal elections to be held this coming Sunday, November 21st. The electoral official highlighted the importance of these elections for the country, as well as the November 26th vote for the indigenous representatives of regional and municipal legislative bodies in 8 states of Venezuela. He also expressed his gratitude for the work carried out by the Bolivarian National Armed Forces to ensure a climate of peace in the upcoming elections. Calzadilla pointed out that the electoral timetable is being followed, with the arrival at polling stations of voting materials and technical equipment.
The taking over of polling stations. Tomorrow, Wednesday, 17th, polling stations will receive the material. On Thursday, 18th, the technical staff will receive and take charge of election materials. On Friday, 19th, ballots will be set up as previous step of what will happen on Sunday. And on Sunday, elections will take place. This is a moment already full of an enormous symbolic charge. The deployment, the startup, the deployment of Operation Republic. We see this moment as a starting point, of course, the deployment, but also as a point of arrival. We have arrived at this moment after an arduous journey or arduous working days during 6 months of working preparing what in a few days is coming to materialize.
The head of the European Union's observation mission to Venezuela, Isabel Santos, offered statements after arriving in the country ahead of Sunday's regional and municipal elections.
We are here awaiting the 21st. We will have over 100 observers who will move all around Venezuela's territories, so we are now preparing everything for election days.
So far, what are the long-term observers here in the field reporting?
The full count of the reports will be done by the 23rd of this month. That's when we will present the report with our conclusions based on the information we have collected all this time.
And so far, is everything okay?
Yes, everything's fine. The mission is working well. With dedication, professionalism, nothing else could be expected. It's perfect.
And is it also all according to what was agreed upon with the National Electoral Council, right?
Yes, so far there haven't been any issues with any institution or anybody in Venezuela. Everything is transpiring as it should in our observation mission of an electoral process, nothing else.
In Chile, the Senate is debating the impeachment of President Sebastián Piñera ahead of a vote over corruption allegations. Last week, the lower house passed the impeachment, meaning Piñera's fate now lies in the hands of senators. This is the second impeachment attempt after the president faced accusations of human rights abuses in the major 2019 social unrest, a move that was rejected in the first instance during a vote in the Chamber of Deputies. The latest impeachment attempt is linked to the purchase and sale of the Dominga Mining Company in the tax haven of the British Virgin Islands, following the revelations of the Pandora Papers investigation. Analysts expect the Senate will vote against impeachment as Piñera enjoys majority support in the House. Less than a week before the general elections in Chile, 6 out of the 7 presidential candidates faced off in a final televised debate on Monday. The debate highlights included the direct accusations against far-right candidate José Antonio Cast by other candidates who described him as a menace to democracy and nicknamed him Mr. Terror. Cast, also dubbed Chile's Bolsonaro, promised to dig a ditch in border zones to prevent asylum seekers from entering the country. He's openly against LGBTQI rights and abortion. On the other hand, Gabriel Boric, the youngest candidate to compete for the Chilean presidency, called for the unity of left-wing forces in the face of the advance of the far right in the country.
We are capable of guaranteeing to carry the transformation forward that our country needs in peace, tranquility and order, which is what the vast majority of Chilean men and women want.
We show that we are a candidacy that takes charge of the changes and demands that the people of Chile have been demanding, and that we are capable of carrying them forward with governability, with gradualness, and with great conviction. And I think that this is the main attribute that we have today, and that was represented in the debate.
In Guatemala, the struggle of poor rural communities against major corporations and the government of President Alejandro Giammattei continues. Members of the Committee for Rural Development, representing farmers and indigenous communities, are staging roadblocks and rallies in several areas across the 21 departments of the country to denounce a climate of institutionalized corruption and unlawfulness. Protesters are calling for President Giammattei to resign, stressing his administration has overseen the persecution of judges, the incarceration of civil rights defenders, a huge rise in gas, electricity and fuel prices, and the state of siege in Estor, a municipality of the northeastern Izbala department, which has led to the militarization of the area in the defense of foreign mining interests and against the local indigenous community. Samir Handel, one of the main suspects in the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse, was arrested in Turkey on Monday. Handel is accused of murder and armed robbery for the offence of July 7th. At the end of August, the former Minister of Justice, Rockefeller Vincent, offered a reward of just over $40,000 for information on the whereabouts of Handel and another suspect it was believed had fled the country. Some 40 suspects in the president's assassination are in custody, among them 20 Colombians, as well as Haitian police officers and Dr. Emmanuel Sanon, who's accused of masterminding the crime. The controversial former president was shot dead at his residence in the capital, allegedly by a commando made up of former members of the Colombian army and other suspects with links to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and the FBI. And we'll be right back after this very short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. United States care workers marched in front of the Capitol in Washington on Tuesday to urge Congress members to pass the Build Back Better bill, a social welfare spending package worth up to $1.85 trillion. The Care Can't Wait rally was organised and attended by a number of organisations, including the Service Employees International Union, National Domestic Workers Alliance and Mums Rising. The Build Back Better Act includes billions for universal preschool for all 3- and 4-year-olds, childcare, healthcare for older US citizens and an extension of the child tax credit. The package also includes funds to tackle climate change and increases taxes on corporations.
My message to the Congress and Senate, the President, all the leaders is, what are you going to do when you need care? Do you have the money? Do you have the person? Do you have somebody that you're going to have to care for you? Because maybe you're not dealing with it right now, but along the line, you're going to deal with it. And at that time, we have so many people that are doing that now with COVID. They need help and they need care.
I didn't think it was important because I didn't fit in that category, but when I found myself having to leave my job and couldn't continue to provide for myself and
United States President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held virtual talks on Tuesday amid mounting tensions between Washington and Beijing. At the virtual meeting, both leaders pledged to improve cooperation and communications as the only way to avoid misunderstandings that could lead to unintended clashes. Among the issues discussed were bilateral relations, which have been deteriorating over time as the US continues to attack the One China policy and launch provocative military movements in waters near China. Both heads of state acknowledged that competition between the US and China was expected, but said it was their personal responsibility as leaders to ensure that rivalry did not veer into conflict.
Both China and the United States are at a critical stage of development. Humanity is a global village, and we face multiple challenges. As the world's 2 largest economies and permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and the US need to increase communication and cooperation, each run their domestic affairs well and, at the same time, shoulder their share of international responsibilities, and work together to advance the noble cause of world peace and development. This is a shared desire of the people of the 2 countries and people around the world, and also a joint mission of Chinese and US leaders.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denounced the use of tear gas and water cannons by Polish forces against asylum seekers entering the EU nation from Belarus.
The behavior of the Polish side is absolutely unacceptable. I think that the use of tear gas and water cannons and shots fired above the heads of migrants towards the direction of Belarus, this all shows, I believe, the desire to hide their actions.
Polish forces fired tear gas at people trying to cross the border from Belarus on Tuesday. The situation escalated after a standoff near the Burkina-Bissau border crossing on the European Union's eastern frontier, which began last week when hundreds of people gathered in the area. Border authorities estimated up to 4,000 asylum seekers are now camped out along the border between Poland and Belarus in increasingly dire conditions and freezing temperatures. At least 11 people have died on both sides since the movement started in the summer. And Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko stressed Tuesday that he wanted to avoid confrontation over the crisis at his country's border with Poland, which the European Union accuses his government of orchestrating. The comments came after the EU and the United States vowed to expand sanctions on Belarus this week, at the same time that Western media attention has suddenly turned to thousands of people, mostly from the Middle East, camped at the Polish border in freezing temperatures. During a phone call with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the Belarusian head of state agreed that the most urgent thing now is to protect these vulnerable people and prevent clashes. He also mentioned that the United Arab Emirates had stated it would help to resolve the crisis. Lukashenko also criticised Western neighbour Poland, which has installed a barbed wire fence along the border and deployed thousands of troops.
On the borders with our neighbors, especially Poland, there are not only border guards. We are witnessing a military build-up there. Up to 20,000 personnel with aircraft and armored vehicles are accumulating over there. All of this is being done under the guise of protecting the EU from the invasion of refugees that have been bombed and plundered by the Western coalition led by the United States. We are not gathering refugees all over the world and bringing them to Belarus, as Poland told the EU.
The latest wave of coronavirus cases in Germany is pushing hospitals in a state of Saxony to their limits. Some patients have been transferred to university hospitals in the wider region, as happened last winter during the severe second wave. As reported on Tuesday by the Leipzig University Hospital, a total of 17 people have been moved to the facility since September, mainly for intensive care treatment of COVID-19. Patients are mainly transferred when dependent on special heart and lung machines that are only available in the state capital and in Leipzig. According to figures from the Ministry of Social Affairs, more than 300 COVID-19 patients are currently receiving intensive care in Saxony, with wards at around 90% capacity. Croatian authorities moved to introduce mandatory COVID-19 passes on Tuesday amid a surge in coronavirus cases battering Central and Eastern Europe. Over the past couple of weeks, Croatia and neighbouring Slovenia have had some of the highest rates of new cases per million people in the world, surpassing even the figures they saw during the first wave of the pandemic in the spring of 2020. Local experts say this is due to a number of factors, which include the new, more contagious strains circulating among the country's 4 million people, as well as relatively low rates of vaccination due to vaccine scepticism. Starting on Tuesday, certificates in the form of scannable QR codes, which confirm that the person has been either vaccinated against COVID-19, has recovered from the disease, or has recently tested negative, are required to enter any public or government building. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers issued a 2-week strike notice, leading to panic buying of fuel. The capital, Abuja, has seen long queues of vehicles at petrol stations as the threat of fuel shortages sparked panic among drivers. Sector workers have accused various oil companies of unfair labour practices and are demanding that the Labour Ministry resolve the issue. The union said the strike was one of the decisions reached at its special National Delegates Conference. Nigeria is sub-Saharan Africa's biggest oil producer and a member of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. The landmark trial on the assassination of Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara continues as witnesses testify. The trial, conducted in a military court in the capital, Ouagadougou, surrounding the 1987 assassination of Sankara and 12 of his companions, is being keenly followed in the country, where the assassination 34 years ago casts a long shadow. Last week, a key defendant, General Gilbert Diendie, pleaded not guilty. Diendie was allegedly an architect of the coup, during which Sankara was killed and his former comrade Blaise Compaoré came to power. The 61-year-old faces charges of harming state security, complicity in murder, concealing bodies and witness tampering. Compaoré faces the same charges but is being tried in absentia. He's long been suspected of ordering Sankara's killing, an allegation that he denies.
Two witnesses who came, I think everyone followed. They confirmed the evidence that we have put forward, that we have supported since the beginning of this trial. One, that contrary to what they say, this story of the 8 o'clock plot by Sankara to assassinate the other officers was pure invention. Two, that it was not isolated elements who spontaneously took action to assassinate Captain Sankara, that it was a well-planned plan, to use the words of a witness, and skillfully orchestrated.
Guinea-Bissau celebrated its 48th Independence Day and Armed Forces Day this Tuesday with a military parade attended by political leaders from across the region. Unlike guerrilla movements in other Portuguese colonies, that which began in 1956 and was led by the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde under the leadership of Amilcar Cabral, rapidly extended its military control over large portions of the territory, aided by the jungle-like terrain, its easily reached border lines with neighbouring allies, and support from Cuba, China, the Soviet Union, and left-leaning African countries. Independence from colonial rule was declared in 1973 and recognised in 1974 when the name of its capital, Bissau, was added to the country's name to prevent confusion with the former French colony of Guinea. The country has seen political instability since independence, and only one elected president has successfully served a full 5-year term. The current president is Umaru Sissoco Embalo, who was elected on December 29, 2019.
We have lost almost half of the 48 years of independence, as Guinea-Bissau has been plunged into political crises of a different nature. All these crises have had negative impacts on public institutions and on the economic life of the country, with serious social consequences. It was a long and difficult period that ended shortly after the presidential elections and my inauguration in early 2020. Since then, Guinea-Bissau has been able to fully recover its regal responsibilities in the concert of nations.
On Tuesday, Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu met with his Lebanese counterpart Abdallah Habib in Lebanon. The Foreign Minister signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at strengthening diplomatic coordination. The Turkish minister expressed hopes for the solution of the Gulf crisis through mutual respect and dialogue, as well as through diplomatic means. The Foreign Minister also met with President Michel Aoun, Speaker of Parliament Nabil Berri, and Economy Minister Amin Salam.
Today I signed, along with Prime Minister a memorandum of understanding on diplomatic training which strengthens cooperation between staff at both embassies, and we are working on forging other bilateral agreements.
The Turkish Foreign Minister also met with Prime Minister Najib Mikati. He said that Ankara is committed to continue supporting Lebanon. He also expressed interest in increasing imports from Lebanon. Last month, Turkey sent 60 tons of food aid to Lebanon's cash-strapped army. And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.